friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And today I'm going to be talking about some of the things that you probably have growing in your garden or just on your property that you can eat that you may not realize it. Now, some of the things I have here are going to be pretty obvious, but I still want to cover a few different things. Tonight what I'm doing is I'm going to be making a stir fry. In this pot back here, I have a chicken that I roasted in our solar oven the other day. And so I've got lots of leftover chicken, and in this pot I have some leftover rice from last night. I always make the rice in bigger pots and then use it in various different ways, just like I do with the meats. Anyway, I was out in the garden gathering up some stuff to put in this stir fry that I'm going to be making later. And I figured I'd grab a few extra things that I don't plan on adding to the stir fry, but these are all things you can use in that or in other ways. So let's go over some of these things and talk about it. And again, this is just some of the things. I'll start with a few of the obvious things, such as snow peas. Now, the date that I'm shooting this is June 30th. I don't know when you're going to be seeing it, sometime in July anyway. But my snow peas are just coming in, and they're right now at that smaller, just right size for adding to a stir fry. But along with that, you can use the leaves from your peas, whether it be your standard garden pea or your snow pea, your snap pea, whatever it is. The leaves taste just like the pea. It's just in a leaf form. So if you're a little short on peas but you want that flavor in there, just pick some of the leaves and add them in. The great thing about these leaves, especially when you pick them on the smaller side, they're really good added to salads. The same goes for your beans. You can eat the leaves from your beans. You can add them to salads or stir fries like I'm going to do here. So again, even if you don't have any beans ready yet, you can pick some of those leaves, as long as you don't overdo it, to get some of that flavor into whatever it is that you're making. Now, green onions are an obvious choice, but I wanted to show these because these are from the ones that I planted from store-bought green onion. I've used all the green down to the white and then transplanted the white parts into pots. And so now I'm getting green onions right off of my deck, growing out of the pots. You just cut them back and they'll just keep putting out more all through the season. So I wanted to remind you of that. If you want to see how I did it, I'll go ahead and link to that video down below in the description box. Be sure to click on show more or that little gray arrow if you're on a smart device. Now, a couple other obvious items would be kale. So I've got some little baby Russian red kale. I've got a collard green here. Now, here's another odd one that you might not have thought of, and that is the lady's thumb. This year we have tons of lady's thumb coming up in all of the garden areas, everywhere. I'm not even sure where it came from in the first place, other than very likely came in on one of our loads of horse manure, like probably from last year or the year before. But anyway, you'll recognize it because of the very short sword-shaped leaves, and this one doesn't show it because I must have picked it in a more shady spot. But you will see a spot right here that's almost a heart-shaped, kind of a brownish, or just a darker color, right here in the middle of the leaf. They correlate it to looking like a thumbprint, which I don't think it does, but that's why they call it lady's thumb. And then it gets, this is really tiny, it will get these little pinkish red flowers on it that kind of look like a cluster of little tiny berries. These are a weed that grow like crazy, but yes, they are edible. You can add them to salads or to stir fries. I find they have just a little bit of a tart flavor to them, just slight. Some people think of them as peppery. I don't think of them as peppery at all, but it could be because I eat some pretty spicy foods. And then you've got your red clover. Red clover is another good option. I'm personally not going to be throwing this in the stir fry, but you can pull off the petals and add them to your stir fry or your salads. I'm actually going to be dehydrating these up for using for other things, but they can be used in tea if you're not going to actually cook with them. Marshmallow leaves. These are really small ones, but you can use marshmallow leaves in stir fries or in salads. I've done both. And I also dehydrate them up and use them in many other things. Echinacea leaves. I made sure to pick a couple of little young ones. I am going to go ahead and add these to the stir fry. Now when it comes to adding stuff like this to stir fries and salads, it is still best to try to go, especially for salads, with the younger leaves because they're going to be more tender. And then of course there's your garlic greens and the garlic scapes. The whole part of the garlic is edible. So I'll be adding these to the stir fry. I'm also going to be adding some beet greens. Now these are lighter in color because these are coming from the mammoth ones, the mango beets. They have a variegated color on the inside. Here's a picture of the ones I grew last year. So you can see how they look when they're cut open. They're not dark red all the way through like a standard red beet is, but that shows up in the leaf too. That makes it easy to tell the difference between my beets out front. Is these ones have just a little bit of red in them. But your beet greens, your turnip greens, your rutabaga greens, all these things are edible. You can add them to salads. You can dehydrate them up and put them in your mixed greens blend like I typically do. These will go in the stir fry tonight though. Nasturtium leaves, another really good one to add to salads and to stir fries. And tonight, even though I usually use the nasturtium flowers in salads if I'm going to use them fresh, or I dehydrate them up and use them in anything related to skin or hair, tonight I'm going to go ahead and add these to the stir fry. I think that will just add some color and some flavor. We'll see. I haven't tried the nasturtium flowers that I remember in a stir fry, though I've used them in many different ways. Rose petals is another option. Yes, any rose is edible. You can use the petals in making teas, salads, or again stir fries. So mostly I'm talking about stir fries because that's what I'm doing tonight. I have here some red orac that I grabbed. Obviously it's a kind of considered a red spinach. I love the color of it. It's just beautiful. This is the golden oregano. I picked it mostly just to add some color out here, but yes, some people grow golden oregano because they think of it as just an ornamental, but it has a very delicious flavor when used fresh in salads. And I am going to go ahead and add this to the stir fry tonight. Strawberry leaves. Now, like a lot of these kind of leaves, it's best if you pick them when they're tender. Make sure you feel them. You can do the same with grape leaves. If you're going to use them in salads, even in stir fries, it's best to go, I wouldn't use the strawberry leaf in a salad, but I'll use it in a stir fry. Even the younger leaves tend to be just a little bit too tough for me for a salad. Same thing with the grape leaves, but still try to go as tender as you can. And that especially applies to when you're talking about plantain leaves. Now, something like this I think would probably be even better if it's steamed or boiled. I'm going to go ahead, I've never tried the plantain leaves in a stir fry, so I'm going to go ahead and add these in there. Normally what I do if I'm not dry enough to use in salves, healing salves for the skin, I will add them to my mixed greens blend because a lot of these things, once they're dehydrated up and flaked up, they're either like the dandelion leaves, not going to be as bitter or strong in flavor, or they're going to just be less tough anyway because they've been dehydrated and then reconstituted. So like strawberry leaves and plantain leaves are something that I add to my mixed greens blend. Another good one that grows wild here for us is the lamb's quarter. So I just picked a little small sprig. I'll probably go out and get some more. Lots of good nutrients in here. And because these tend to stay tender for most of their growing cycle, these are good used in any way that you can think to use them as a vegetable. And of course I've got stinging nettle here. I've been using this a lot in soups and stir fries and casseroles and dehydrating up tons for teas and to put in my mixed greens blend and just to add more nutrients. Stinging nettle is extremely healthy and I have a video just on this. I actually have a video on quite a bit of this stuff, just not all of it. Borage leaves, again, these are best if picked small like this, and then they're not as pokey. The bigger they get real pokey. These are just fuzzy. And so I've used really young ones in salads just fine as long as you cut them up really good. But these ones I'm going to go ahead and cut them up and stir fry them. Sage blossoms. Sage blossoms are very tasty. So you can pick these off here and add them to your salads. And they do have a sage flavor, but just like with many of your more pungent herbs like this, the flowers tend to be just a little more mild in flavor. Same thing goes with oregano blossoms, thyme blossoms, rosemary blossoms, any of them. So you can use these, they are edible. Then there's the horseradish leaf. Now, I'm not actually going to use this. I only brought this in to show it. The horseradish leaf is edible, but it's a lot more tough than any other leaf that you can get. It is actually in the brassica family, and it has a flavor more like, I would say, a rutabaga or turnip top. But though it has somewhat of a horseradish flavor, it doesn't taste near as much like horseradish to me as does the red mustard. I love red mustard. This is something that, you know, you eat it fresh like this, and it's got that real powerful horseradishy kind of flavor that almost feels like it's going to clear out your sinuses. Not quite as strong as a horseradish root, but definitely far more than the leaf itself. Now, some of the options you can do besides cooking the leaf of the horseradish is some people use it for helping to keep pickles fresh, like you would with a grape leaf and certain other type leaves. Horseradish leaves are another good option for that. And then you can get some of that flavor in there as well. Now, grape leaves tend to be a little bit more on the tart side, so it just kind of depends on what you're looking at. Oh, and of course you've got your pansies or viola tricolor. So these ones I'm not going to add to the stir fry because the two main things I do with the pansies is I either use them in salads or I dehydrate them up to use in my homemade skin cream. And those are the number one things I use pansies for. But pansies, the whole, all aerial parts of the plant are edible and have a very mild wintergreen flavor to them. So you can add the leaves or the flowers to anything you want, be it salads, stir fries, casseroles, anything. What I'm going to be using is some of the fat and the broth that is in that chicken that I roasted up. I'm going to be taking both out, and I'm going to be sauteing, basically. I'm calling it a stir fry, but really what I'm going to be doing is sauteing the vegetables that I'm going to be using in tonight's dinner in the combination of the chicken fat and the bone broth. Now, if you're vegan, obviously you can do this with just simply coconut oil, or if you have a vegetable broth, you can even make your own vegetable broths and then add a little bit of that in there plus some coconut oil or avocado oil. Any oil that you choose that is healthy, but it can also handle a little higher heat. I don't typically cook with olive oil because it can't handle higher heats, but usually when you're doing a saute or stir fry, you're doing a lower temperature, but make sure you're checking what you're doing. I always just stick with the ones like the avocado oil or the coconut oil that I know can handle higher heat, so I don't have to worry about it going rancid and thus becoming toxic to the body. I'm trying to use up some of this leftover chicken. This is definitely not going to be a vegan meal, so yes, I'm going to be using that bone broth because it's got a lot of good healthy benefits in it, and it's going to add some flavor, and then the fat in there is going to give you that oil to help prevent it from sticking and just help it cook better anyway. And I'm going to be making a stir-fried rice since we have the rice. However, you can add more broth to it and your coconut aminos or your Bragg's liquid aminos and make more of a sauce so that you can have the sauteed vegetables on top of noodles or on top of your rice rather than cooking the rice and the vegetables all together like I'm going to do. And I hope this gives you some ideas of some of the things you might have growing in your garden already that you haven't even thought to put to use. And if you're not sure, if you look at something, just look around in your garden and look at the greens you have out there and just say, I wonder if this is edible. Then go look it up. Are strawberry leaves edible? Are currant leaves edible? Are grape leaves edible? Whatever it is. And you will be able to find that out, just like with the beans and the peas and anything else. And then find ways to start using it. Oh, by the way, horseradish flowers, I was going to mention this. Horseradish flowers are edible too, and I love those. They're tasty. They're kind of this sweet, spicy flavor all in one, and it's so good fresh off the plant. But anyway, once you find out if they're edible, then taste it first and get a feel for the texture and the flavor before you decide how you're going to use it. Because the texture and the flavor is going to play a big part in how you're going to want to use it. For example, borage leaves, like I said, when they get bigger, they're very spiky. They're not tough. They're still kind of tender, but they're very pokey, and so they're not really good used fresh if they're older. But the smaller leaves are, and they have a nice cucumbery flavor. And again, if you're going to be cooking them up, they will soften up and get tender, and that's why you want to check all this stuff. Some stuff just won't work great in salads fresh because it's too tough or the texture is just wrong, but they still might be perfect for adding to soups and casseroles and stir fries. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this video and it gave you a few ideas. Do some looking around and do your own research and make the most of what you got growing out there. Okay, well, thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.